Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. All extra cheeky of you, by the way, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Now today's first story is titled Me 29 Female, with my longtime friends 29 Male, 25 Female. I did a huge favor for them and I feel very unappreciated. I've known Adam, 29 Male, since the 6th grade, and I met his now wife Sarah, 25 Female, when they started dating a few years ago. Sarah and I clicked immediately and became very good friends. She's sweet and has an infectious energy. Adam can be kind of a dick, but he's one of those old friends that you make excuses for, and he can be very kind at times, of course. I care about both of them very much. Last year, Adam proposed to Sarah and they decided on a wedding in a friend of a friend's backyard. This type of wedding can be cheaper, but it requires a lot of organization because every single element has to be rented and set up. And for people who have never planned an event like this, they were in over their heads almost immediately. My fiance and I moved to a new city about 8 hours away shortly after their engagement, and I work full-time as a wedding planner and a day-of coordinator. At the risk of sounding boastful, and strictly for context, I love my job and I am very good at it. I'm highly requested, well reviewed, and well paid, and I run about 10 weddings a month. So when Sarah called me in tears a couple of months ago because she was so overwhelmed and had no idea how a wedding day would run, of course I told her not to worry about it and that I would coordinate for her. Why wouldn't I? I mean, she would do the same for me, right? Thursday morning after driving 8 hours, I call and text Sarah asking when and where I can help. She answers hours later saying to not bother showing up until just before the bachelor/bachelorette party. When I got there, she and two of her bridesmaids were taking bong hits and chatting. So a maid of honor, MOH, and I prepared wedding desserts in the kitchen while Sarah tended to her friends, one of which was on a horrific acid trip. Friday was setup day, and the mother of the bride, MOB, literally brought a mobile home full of decor, with no plan of where anything would go. I've never seen so much decor for a wedding, and that is saying something. At the rehearsal dinner, Sarah ended up screaming at Adam in front of their families and bridal party about a perceived slight, and I had to play counselor for them. On the wedding day, everyone got there early to set up. It was another long, stressful day of delegating and organizing, but I got it done. It looked gorgeous. One of the prettiest weddings I've ever done. I ran the ceremony, sprinted up hills to control the iPod, set up cocktail hour, moved all the seats from ceremony to reception, hooked up all the lights, poured the champagne for toast, sent tables one at a time to be served by the food truck. Everything. Honestly, I felt like Superman. I did an awesome job. 3 couples asked for my rates because they wanted me to run their weddings, and complete strangers gave me such sweet compliments about my professionalism. I was and am so proud of how it turned out and grateful for most of the bridal party who worked so hard and took my directions without a second thought. I'm used to bridezillas and I always let their attitudes roll off my back. Weddings are stressful and I don't like to judge people based on a stressful event, but I wasn't expecting to be treated so shitty by Sarah, who had always been so sweet to me. She stormed up to me several times during the reception to bark orders at me or demanding to know when things were happening. Sometimes, as I was literally instructing someone to do that very thing, she would roll her eyes at me and was very condescending. She held up her own wedding ceremony because she was convinced I was stupid enough to give the bartender the wrong cups and needed to check herself. She never said thank you until I was leaving at the end of the night. I didn't feel like a friend. I felt like an employee and not a respected one at that. Other people noticed how she treated me. The best man is one of my oldest friends, and he wanted to march up to Sarah and demand she apologize to me during the reception, but I asked him not to because I didn't want to start drama at her wedding. Apparently she and Adam have been getting nastier to everyone over the past 6 months. Eventually I just shut down and went into work mode. I didn't eat for about 15 hours. I have blisters on most of my toes and ran about 13 miles around that event, and she treated me like a lazy piece of crap. She is probably the worst bride I've ever worked with, and again, that's saying something. Adam, shockingly, was actually very appreciative most of the day until I was leaving. The last thing he said to me was, "I love you so much, we couldn't have done this without you, it was perfect, except you fucked up that inconsequential thing that no one noticed." Haha. We drove home yesterday and honestly, I feel like I lost 2 of my best friends. Fiance, who was by my side the whole time, and the most helpful person during setup, God I love him so effing much, is livid. He is so pissed that I did such a huge favor for them and they treated me like that. He doesn't want them invited to our wedding, and I see his point, but I don't want to make a decision until the whole thing calms down a bit. The maid of honor is equally pissed and texts me the next day to say she felt taken for granted by Sarah. Sarah and Adam are on their honeymoon for the week right now, and I kind of don't want to talk to them yet. So I come to you, good Redditors. Should I say anything? Wait until they contact me. Wait until best man rips them a new a-hole. Wait for an apology and then reassesses their invitation to my wedding. TLDR, I'm a wedding coordinator and ran my good friend's wedding. They treated me like crap the whole time. I don't know if I can see them the same way ever again, and my fiance doesn't want them at our wedding. This is one of those situations where I'll be definitely taking a step back from the friendship. I get wedding stress, we've seen it loads and loads of times, but that doesn't excuse this kind of behavior. OP has gone way above beyond, drove 8 hours to be there just to begin with, barely ate, and then spent the entire day running herself into the ground, and then got treated like shit. And even the groom finishes the night with, "We couldn't have done this without you, except you fucked up that one thing." It's like, mate, read the fucking room. And a huge red flag for me is that multiple people noticed this. The maid of honor felt taken for granted. The best man wanted to confront the bride. When there's multiple people around thinking that wasn't okay, it's probably because it wasn't. Whether you'd actually want to tell them how you felt afterwards is one thing, but I certainly wouldn't want to be a part of this going forward. It's absolutely awful. A commenter suggests to OP, wait until they contact you and let them know you're disappointed with how they treated you. Reiterate that you were glad to help, but that their behavior and conduct left you feeling, however you felt leaving that encounter, upset, frustrated, angry. Also tell them that you're taking a breather and will reach out when you're ready to work on your friendship. Then do that. Give it some time and space. If they apologize, consider that apology and accept it if you can. I have a gut feeling that they will probably deny and minimize their poor behavior, which, if they do, drop them. You've worked with enough brides to know what is a day of frustration and panic, and what is being a straight up dick. What you outlined sounds like dickery. Dickery. OP says, I was truly glad to help, and even now, I think I would have done the same thing. It probably would have been a shit show if I hadn't been there. I couldn't sleep at night if I'd showed up on Saturday and watched a train wreck, knowing I could have helped. You're right, Sarah's behavior was dickish. Thank you for your advice. I'll call off and see if they reach out at all. Commenter says, if you decide to end the friendship, I think you should make it very clear to both of them exactly why you're cutting contact. Sarah deserves to know how badly she fucked up. I cut Adam some slack about that one comment, no. I realized that his parting comment felt like a slap in the face after all the abuse from Sarah, but he probably didn't mean much by it, and it would have slid off your back if things had been different throughout the day. Hope says you're right. Adam hadn't seen most of Sarah's attitude, and he probably wouldn't have said it if he had known how bummed I was. Thank you. Commenter says, I read his comment as, you did a fantastic job, we both know it, so it's obvious I don't need to say it since the worst thing that happened was insignificant detail he mentioned, in arsehole language. It was a compliment, but he was fucking with you. So it was 4 months later that OP came in with their update and said, hi everyone, thanks for all the advice on my previous post. I love me an update, so here's mine. So Sarah and Adam's wedding happened in early June. I decided that if I hadn't heard anything by October 1st, I would email Sarah and confront her about her behavior. I wanted to give it a little time so that everyone could cool down. Plus, I've been absolutely swamped with wedding season at work, so I thought 4 months would give her a very gracious amount of time to think things over. Oh, lots of stuff happened, none of which were apologies. I never received a thank you note, a call, a text, anything. Sarah's maid of honor actually confronted her about her behavior towards her and I and others in August. Sarah said, oh really? I thought I said thank you. I didn't realize I was acting badly. So she was informed that she was out of line, but took no steps to actually make things right. The only time Sarah tried to contact me since the wedding was in August when, unfortunately, my fiance's sister passed away. It was sudden and shitty, and we're heartbroken that she won't be at our own wedding. Sarah texted me about a week after she passed, saying, I just realized I haven't talked to you since the wedding. I'm sorry about fiance's sister. If you need to vent, let me know. Not sure why she texted me and not fiance, but whatever. I said thanks and didn't respond further because I wanted to focus on fiance and his family. Adam's best man called me last week. Adam and Sarah are divorcing. Apparently things started going downhill immediately following the wedding. More fighting, not sleeping in the same bed, etc. Then Sarah lost her job. Then they decided to get a puppy. Then a few weeks ago, Sarah confronted Adam basically saying, I feel like you proposed under pressure, and then when everyone told you it was a mistake, you doubled down, even though it seems clear you didn't want to be married to me. And Adam basically agreed. And honestly, everyone had tried to tell the both of them that this was a bad idea. We really tried, but they were having none of it. They just thought that relationship milestones, moving in together, engagement, marriage, puppies, would be band-aids for their problems. So Sarah moved back to her home state to live with her parents. Their families are livid. Their bridal parties and wedding guests are upset too. Obviously, none of the wedding gifts were returned. It sucks, and I'm sad for them because breakups and divorces aren't fun, but I'm sure it'd be better for the both of them in the long run. I had a short text conversation with Adam, and he seems okay as can be expected. Seems like my question of whether they should be invited to my and my fiance's wedding has worked itself out. Thanks again for all the advice, even though I didn't get to actually use any of it. TLDR, Sarah never apologized for her behavior. She and Adam are getting divorced after a few months of marriage. The fact that Sarah never ever reached out to OP to thank them for what they did for their wedding just basically said it all. OP waited 4 months before saying anything themselves, only to never receive that thank you card. It's just wild, isn't it? I honestly just felt really bad for OP all the way through. I'm glad they got closure and they didn't have to invite them to their wedding, etc. But it was kind of like OP spent a good chunk of their time helping to create what everyone said was a beautiful wedding, only for it to last a matter of months. Yeah, it's got to sting a bit, right? But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. Now our next story comes from Rule, who says, would I be the arsehole here if I didn't invite my dad's wife to my high school graduation? Notice how I said my dad's wife and not my stepmom. I don't see her in that capacity at all. English is not my first language. My 18 male parents had a rough divorce, and my dad immediately moved on and got married to his former high school girlfriend, before my mum. So my dad's wife was someone who was forced into my life without me wanting her in it. She doesn't have kids. She's always clingy and trying to make it seem like me and my sister are her kids, and we are this one big happy family. In my opinion, excuse my language, she is emotionally and socially a dumbass. She just doesn't know how to act. Once, when they first got married, they had a get together and me and the kids were apparently making lots of noise, so she took us to her room and locked us in. She was inside with us. She refused to let us out unless we vowed to not make any more noise. We were 6 and 7. Would love to add to the fact that I got a lot of shit for that because she was just joking, and I don't know how to take a joke. She just doesn't know how to act. This is going to sound crazy, but I actually love her mother, my dad's mother-in-law. She stood by my side during a lot of problems and has called out her daughter's behavior. Now, my graduation is coming up. My mum thinks I need to invite her because I have previously stayed over at her vacation home. In addition to the fact that she doesn't have kids and I am the closest thing she'll ever have to kids. Now, she and my dad were very horrible to me in their first year of marriage, so personally, I've never liked her. I still kind of resent my dad for the way things went. I don't have enough tickets to invite her anyway, in addition to the fact that even if I did want to invite people that in a way or another raised me or helped my parents raise me, those include my grandparents and my aunt and uncle, who one of which doesn't have a kid, and I'm the actual closest thing he'll ever have to a kid, in addition to the fact that I share a last name with him. My mum thinks it's going to be very awkward for my dad to leave the house to go to my grad, and for her to ask him and for him to reply and say, my name's Grad. I think it's insanely inappropriate for her to be there. My mum is trying to avoid problems with my dad, but what business does she have being at the same event concerning me with my mum and grandma? Personally, I don't care about what people will think. I care about my happiness and the fact that I don't want her there. I feel like I shouldn't need to justify this to anyone, and it's my decision. I probably need to get over a lot of things that happened in the past, but that's an issue for another day. Inviting her won't change that. Just to add, if I wanted to invite her, I'd have to sacrifice inviting one of my aunts or uncles, which I'm not doing, and I'd rather not have a graduation than invite her. Also, I wasn't invited to their wedding. And I'm a bit annoyed at the mum and her reasoning in this situation, saying she's the closest thing she'll ever have to kids. That's sad, but that's not OP's responsibility to fix at all. You don't become someone's parent just because you want children. It comes through building trust and love and respect, all the stuff that a parent should be doing. And it seems some of the memories that OP has from her is in fact being locked in a room and being told they couldn't take a joke. They haven't built a close relationship, and they don't get to suddenly claim to have one now. And OP said at the end that they wasn't invited to their wedding, yet years later they're expected to make room for one of their biggest milestones in their own life. A bit rich, isn't it? A commenter suggests to OP, how about also not inviting your dad and instead picking someone else? Is that an option you've considered if it's so hard for him to go on his own? OP says, yeah, regardless of the stuff that happened, he is my dad though. She isn't shit to me. And honestly speaking, our relationship has gotten a lot better, so no need to make a big problem like that. Commenter says you would be the arsehole. Your dad will demand you bring her anyways, so why fight it when you have tickets? This is your dad's chosen wife. She's not going anywhere. No need to be difficult. OP says, you just said it. His chosen wife. Not my wife or my mother. I think I made it clear that I don't have enough tickets to invite her, even if I wanted to. Commenter says, not the arsehole, it's your decision, not your mother's. She locked you in a room when you were a child and nobody thought that was fucking unhinged. Quoting, my mum thinks I need to invite her because I have previously stayed over at a vacation home, in addition to the fact that she doesn't have kids and I'm the closest thing she'll ever have to kids. Then says, so fucking what? You're not her child, and she did a shit job of trying to connect with you when you were young. Locking you in a room with her is not the way to bond with a child. Stop discussing this with your mother. Invite who you want. Don't jade, justify, argue, defend, or explain. Give out the invites. If your father chooses not to come, oh well. Sounds like he wasn't a good dad anyway. Congratulations on your graduation. OP responded saying they thought it was a funny joke, that I can't take a joke. Exactly, thank you, and again, thank you. Commenter says you're the arsehole. Sorry, but time to grow up. You talk about an incident that happened when you were 6, so this lady has been in your life for 12 years. Are you willing to damage your relationship with your father because you want to throw a toddler tantrum and show her? Your mother sounds wise and classy. You should listen to her. OP says she's actually done a lot of similar shit to what she did back then. Most recently in November and before that in July. And yeah, I actually am. The commenter replied to OP saying, then you have your answer and you're just looking for validation. Go forth and live with the consequences of your decision as comfortable as possible. Quick question before I go. How's your college graduation or wedding gonna go? Your children's baptisms, birthdays. This is just the first of many life events. Are you asking your dad to come alone or don't come at all? No response needed, just food for thought. OP does, and then quotes the validation comment and says, you're on Am I the Arsehole? What do you expect? I've made my decision and I'm looking for advice on how to do it as cleanly as possible. Quoting the quick question before I go, and then says, college graduation will go the same way. As for wedding, there's going to be 2,000 plus people there, many of whom I don't like, so I won't care. As for baptisms, I think you know how intimate that is. Come alone. A commenter says, you said you don't even have enough tickets, so what's the problem? Just tell them you don't have enough tickets. OP says my mum thinks this is a bad approach because she says my dad might think I'm trying to be a smartass. Commenter replies saying, so who do they want you to disinvite to include your dad's wife? Either way, it's your event, your day. Don't invite anyone you don't want there. If there are limited tickets, it should not be an issue. You can explain to your dad that your mum tried hard to convince you. That way, he can't blame her. You got this. You'll respect yourself a lot more years down the road if you stand strong and don't cave. Good luck, OP, and congratulations. OP says one of the aunts or uncles. I won't cave, hopefully. Thank you so much. A commenter says, I missed the part where you told your dad that this woman was abusing you. You did tell him, right? Not the arsehole. OP says, I did, but she was joking, she didn't mean anything. And one more commenter says to OP, also have you considered just inviting your dad's mother-in-law and not inviting his wife or him? You can frame it as you only had one ticket left and you didn't want to make your dad choose between your graduation and his wife's feelings, so you chose someone you feel close to, who wouldn't make your day about themselves and would truly be there to celebrate you. OP says as much as I'd love to do that, his wife is the type of person that would cut off her mum if something like that happened. She would get into a fight with her and say shit like, her mum stole me from her. It would create a massive headache that would last months. So it was a month later, OP came in with what was titled as their final update and says, when I wrote the post, I wrote it as a hypothetical scenario. Despite my mum and brother's warnings, I thought my dad wasn't going to ask me to invite his wife. Boy, was I wrong. After I wrote the post, I went to my mum and told her that there will not be a graduation if his wife comes. I then listed a bunch of shit she did over the past few months. All this was November 2025, and my mum was shocked. One of the things was her trying to turn my dad against me because I don't tell him my school grades. The reason I don't is because he goes and runs to her and tells her everything. My mum sided with me ultimately. 2 weeks after the post, I was in the supermarket with my dad and he told me to do a favor for him. invite your stepmom. Initially I told him I wished I could, but there wasn't enough tickets. He then told me no problem, I'll call his uncle and tell him not to come. He was really willing to not have his brother come just to appease his wife. I told him no, there's not enough tickets and that it'd be very inappropriate for her to be there with my grandma and mother attending. He told me that I'd be making him a huge problem and that he might not be able to come. So I told him, good riddance, now you're making it so I can be able to invite my friends who weren't going to be able to come. Then he secretly went to my brother and started getting mad at his wife, saying that she's causing him problems and he's sick of her and whatnot. After I got home, he started talking badly about my mum and her family, saying that he's paying for the tickets, $200, and they're coming on his pay. He then started insulting my mother's brother and my grandma, saying how they're coming on his pay and how he doesn't like them. So I immediately went to the bathroom and messaged my mum to pay the tickets, to which she did, to which he was at shock. Then he started saying how upset his wife would be and whatnot. I told him it's your job as husband to tell her when you can't get something done for her. Not everything she asks is going to be possible, especially at my expense. He then started breaking and told me that his wife came to him and said, why did myself not invite me to his graduation when I want to make a large family gathering to celebrate him? I told him, then you're making a very big deal of nothing. She just asked a question. You could have said there's not enough tickets. You didn't need to talk to me about any of this. I then told him that he better tell his wife that whatever gathering she makes, I'm not attending. Anyway, a couple of days later was my senior trip, so on the day before I called him and told him that just to get the facts straight, I don't want your wife there. It's not my mum or grandma, it's the fact that I don't want her. He was kind of shocked at that, but then I was boarding the plane, so I had to hang up. I haven't seen his wife really since a couple of days before the original post. I saw her briefly in a funeral 2 weeks ago, to which I was very cold and distant. Going on, I'm not going to their house, and I'll be cutting contact with her completely. Yesterday was my graduation, and his wife didn't attend, but my dad came. It was a lovely day where I was surrounded by people who love and respect me, not people who tries to force themselves into my life. In the comments, OP tags a bunch of users and says, thank you for your advice, it really helped me a lot. One of them replied saying, yes, I was so happy to read this update. It sounds like you had the graduation that you deserved, drama-free and supported by people who love and respect you. Keep your boundaries and remember that you're not responsible for any adult feelings. I wish you all the best that life has to offer. Again, congratulations, and thank you for the shout out. Opie says, thank you so much. I really couldn't have done it without your advice. Another one says, did he attend without her? And Opie said yes. Commenter replied saying, thank you for your answer. I hope he was not a Debbie Downer. Congratulations and the best future possible. Opie says, nope, realized that I didn't mention that in the post, so you reminded me to edit it. Commenter says, you're allowed to have boundaries with family members and their spouses. I get you. My dad's wife has done some cruel things in the past. I told my dad before my wedding that if he and his wife couldn't be kind to my mum, then they shouldn't come. And if they come and are unkind, I will ask them to leave. My uncle was on standby to walk me down the aisle. They behaved fine. In fact, I caught her and my mum comparing a few things about my dad. That was crazy. I'm glad he came without her. Keep strong with your boundaries. Opie says, honestly, I think the time for boundaries is done. It's just time to cut her out. My dad is always going to be with her. Our relationship is perfect when she isn't in it. Commenter says, I get you. I saw my dad 2 years ago for the first time in 15 years. I can't deal with her. This severely impacted my relationship with my dad. He didn't even attend my brother's funeral because she didn't want to fly. Yep, his only son's funeral. He always picks her and her kids over us. Just be prepared. Opie says, yep, this is exactly my issue. Not having a spine to say no. Commenter says, glad he was sensible. Another one replies saying, true, but I'm still upset over what he did or tried to do to OP. He needs to understand that OP is and will most likely never be a fan of his wife. OP says, I still am, to be honest. I just try to forget it for the graduation. The commenter says, not the arsehole. I'm glad it worked out for you. It's been an important life lesson for you. This was the first of many important lifetime events, so by setting the precedent now, Dad is invited, his wife isn't, your opinions are crystal clear. This will put you in good stead for future events like your university graduation, getting engaged and married, etc., and for when you have kids. Dad's wife just isn't included in your life, period. Opie says, indeed it has been. Now we're entering the real world, which sounds a bit crazy to say. That is the system moving forward 100%. And one more commenter says to OP, my comment is not about what you endured at his wife's hands, but your inability to communicate with your dad and still feel wronged. I know you're 18, but specifically waiting to get on a plane to tell your dad how you really feel is pretty immature. Everyone knew your true feelings except your dad. You made it about the availability of tickets and you expect him to understand the situation. Then drop the truth in a phone call when you can hide behind no reception. However, your dad is also pretty self-serving and immature, so you need to ensure you're not emulating him without realizing it. People in relationships can be hard work, so support is welcome, but sometimes you need to face up to the hard discussions by yourself. Opie says, look, I tried to avoid a fight that was going to happen regardless, and that was wrong. I now know that whenever a person stands up for something, their opinion in this case, they are bound to make enemies. Last year I explained to my dad that I dislike his wife. He keeps lying to himself every year thinking that the status quo has changed. It hasn't. I'm not going to keep reminding him of my feelings towards his wife. I personally wasn't a big fan of the comments calling Opie immature. They're 18 years old, trying to deal with a father who's repeatedly refusing to hear what they are saying. Some people, even some of the comments that I didn't read, were acting as if Opie never communicated their feelings, but they bloody did. The graduation conversation that happened proved exactly why Opie was reluctant to keep going down this path, to have another heart-to-heart, because Dad's first reaction in this wasn't, can we discuss why you're feeling this way? It was, I'll invite my own brother, followed by loads of guilt tripping afterwards. And Opie was right in the end. This wasn't about the wife anymore, really. It was about a dad who just continues to keep choosing his wife's happiness over listening to his own kid. So in my opinion, good on Opie for keeping their boundaries. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Now, just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time. It always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for being here. Truly is absolutely amazing. And hopefully I'm going to see you in the next one. Take care and much love.